I want to go talk to Peterson. Peterson, do you have any comments on the Nazi presence at your protest? The presence of Nazis and white supremacists assaulting people at your protest. Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I don't like Nazis.
Then why are you?
Why were they here?
Well, how can I answer
Are there views in alignment with yours?
At some point, you have to realize.
That's a foolish question. Look, if you want to know what my views are,
I've watched all of your videos. Yes.
Including
yes, I have.
Yes.
Then why would you ask such a question?
Because this is my interpretation of your videos.
Apparently,
all of the people who arranged the protest against you watched all of your videos.
It's like, do you want to disavow?
I have 150 videos on YouTube.
No, your lectures, which sparked the debate.
Okay.
Do you want to disavow the support?
Could you let me talk to her for a moment?
Don't call me that, please.
So, I have 150 lectures on YouTube. There's 500 hours of my views.
Do you really think that you're worth all of that time?
So look, I will answer your question, okay? I've studied Nazism for a very long time. It's been 4 decades, and I understand it very well. And I can tell you that there's some awful people lurking in the corners, and they're ready to come out. And if the radical left keeps pushing the way
that sounds very much like a threat.
They're going to come.
That sounds very much like a threat. That sounds very much like a threat. Would you like to disavow the physical violence? Trans people were physically assaulted at this rally in your name. Would you like to disavow that violence?
Yes.
So you wish that didn't happen, and you want to, and I'm going to post this online that you would like people to not to be more accommodating of trans people and people of color at your events in future.
I would like there to be no violence.
I'm a person of color, and I felt very accommodating here. I felt like my voice. Thank you very much.
I'm also former Muslim, and I feel like this guy's
I'm a person of color. There are many Muslims.
You wanted to disavow. You wanted to disavow, and this is the disavowal. I am not an advocate of violence. I'm speaking out the way I'm speaking out because I think this is a route to no violence. And violence is lurking. And you can say that that sounds like a threat.
There was no violence at our protest, though. There was violence at your protest. So what does that say about our views?
It's not my protest. You know, asking me continually freighted questions isn't very helpful if you actually want to have a dialogue. You have no idea if I'm your enemy. You have no idea about me.
You won't use my pronouns, so I'm pretty sure you're my enemy, yes.
Yeah, well, I know you think that, but I don't believe that using your pronouns is going to do you any good in the long run. I think it'll do quite the contrary.
What the?
Is that your medical opinion?
What, is that your medical opinion? Like, you are aware that non-binary people are valid in the American Psychological Association.
Is that your opinion?
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
It's about non-binary pronouns.
No, it's not.
Yeah,
I'm
saying that that's what I'm about.
To the rally? Were you there when I spoke?
I've been here for this whole thing.
Okay, well, I don't know that. It's a genuine question. Look, I think that's what's happening is that we're pushing over a line we shouldn't cross. The newest legislation is requiring people to use.
But you are aware that that's being put in place so that we can't get fired. We need to be written into the Canada human rights legislation, or we can be fired for our gender identity.
I'm not aware.
Well, then why did you make a fucking video about it? I've been denied housing as a trans person. These rights would protect me.
Denied housing?
I've been denied housing.
From the state or for the open market? So have you been denied housing, like, from the government?
It's illegal either way if we had human rights.
From the government?
Or
have you tried to get a house like everybody else and they said, no, you're weird, you can't work? No, if the state has done that, that's a problem.
They said,
but if someone doesn't want to live with you, that's their right.
They said, no, you're trans. Really sure so no, if I had human rights, that wouldn't have fucking happened.
Yeah, you're weird. I don't want to live with schizophrenic
people. As far as I'm
concerned,
that's a terrible thing. It's too bad that that's happened.
So you don't want us to, but you don't want us to have protections in the human rights bill that will allow me to have employment, allow me to have housing security, allow me to have medical care. That's what this is about. It's not about infringing on your rights or making you learn a new fucking pronoun.
I don't think that's what it's about. What evidence do you have that attempting to transform the way that people use pronouns is going to produce a positive effect on society?
Are you aware that there is a trans boy who killed himself in psychiatric care recently because he was continuously being misgendered by his care workers?
And that is my precise problem.
And there have been multiple recorded instances of trans people killing themselves because they are not being integrated into society. We are not looking for special treatment. We are looking to be able to integrate ourselves into society. And if you refuse to refer to us by our pronouns, which is not allowed to ask, singular they pronouns go all the way back to Shakespeare. It's not a new thing. If you refuse to let us integrate ourselves into society, you create alienation that results in suicide. We are in a suicide epidemic right now. What are you contributing to this as a psychologist?
Man, you know, you're almost impossible to talk to. You're so full of rhetoric that it's impossible to listen to you. I would be more than happy to listen to you.
Yeah, really?
I was devoid of rhetoric. And yes, actually, I don't really think I am a rhetorician. Just so you know that. And you know, like, it's very hard to listen to you. I mean, it's very hard to attend to you
because
you rattle on in your with your ideological speech.
It's not ideological. It's personal. That's what you.
It's not personal. You haven't said a personal thing.
I'm talking about something that affects my community.
It's just that when you say the things that you say, it tends, even if you didn't mean it to, it attracts people like neo-Nazis and fascists because they see an avenue in what you're saying to do what they want. Even if that's not what you meant, they see an avenue in the idea of like a more abscondist form of free speech. They see an avenue in that to continue to spread their hateful ideology and to make more people hateful. So that's why the Nazis come here. I just wanted to make sure that you knew that's why that was.
I'm perfectly aware of it.
I have a calm, rational question.
Okay.
I won't get emotional with you. So, who is this legislation harming? Who is
harming anybody who wants to use their own words?
So, in what capacities? Be specific.
Look, it's important that people are able to use their own words.
Okay.
Because that's how we think. And if the government starts legislating how we think, and
so if I wanted to call you she,
are you going to let us
no, I'm playing off of what you're saying. If I wanted to call you she and her and miss, because that's my freedom of speech, and if everyone just called you that all the time, and that was the only thing,
can't you tell?
I think that you don't care because you've never had to face that, and it's a common trend among people who have never had to face like transgender-related discrimination that you think it's not a big deal because you don't have to deal with it.
I didn't say I didn't think it was a big deal. I said I didn't care if people called me that.
Public institutions, but it does prevent us from accessing healthcare. It does prevent us from accessing other services.
I'm not arguing about your rights.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
That's
about our rights.
For trans
I'm sorry. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you realize that right now, if you were to kill a trans person, because only for the sole reason that they're trans, that would not be considered a hate crime. Sure, they could be convicted of murder, but not of a hate crime. And that's what this bill.
That's what this in the States, they can use a trans panic defense in almost all of the United States and get off by claiming temporary insanity because they were freaked out by the trans person.
I am not claiming for a moment that people who don't fit into standard and traditional sexual categories or sexual identity categories
about gender,
face all sorts of trouble. They do. Sexuality. I just don't think that this is the way to fix it. In fact, I think
you do not think that a law that legislates protections from discrimination for trans people is a way to, you do not think that.
That's right. I don't think.
Have you read the laws are intentionally worded? Most laws involving human rights.
Much trouble to as many people as possible.
What would we gain from that?
There's a conspiracy of intent. I didn't say it was a conspiracy. That there is a concentrated effort behind these bills in order to specifically make the lives of people worse, and that's why we create human rights legislation to make it.
I think that people often do things to make other people's lives worse. Don't you?
Well, clearly, as an example of this rally.
I am probably the most fervent anti-statist you will ever meet. I am an anarchist, and I do not believe that anyone who writes legislation has the interest of anybody but themselves and their special interest groups at heart. So don't come at me saying that I want to suck off the nipple of the government, okay? Because that's not who I am. What I'm interested is in that people I love are being assaulted, are being killed, are being discriminated against, are being kicked out onto the street, are freezing to death in the winter because they're being denied shelter. And I feel.
But pronouns are too much to ask for you to show solidarity towards those people.
Can I just have a moment?
Sorry.
Look, we agree that this is a thing that's happening. We agree that it's a reprehensible thing that's happening.
Okay, sure, let's agree on that.
I mean, I don't think that would be controversial to most people. I mean, apparently,
I agree.
Apparently, some people think. Apparently, to some people, we're freaks because we can't have families or whatever. But what okay, whatever. Maybe that's not something you agree with. I don't know. I'm not going to put words in your mouth in that regard.
I agree with.
What I fail to understand is how you honestly feel, in your expert opinion, as both an educator, as an educated person, that not calling somebody by a pronoun that has been used to refer to individual people.
No, I think it's legislating it. It's legislating it as a necessity that I have an objection to.
Okay, so if there was this legislation was not on the table, if this legislation fails, let's say, if this is removed, you would be totally fine referring to me with they them pronouns.
Probably not they and them.
Probably not they and them. Why is
No.
that?
Well, because I don't think it's a tenable solution.
I don't think it's what?
I don't think it's the solution to the problem that you're trying to solve. I mean, it's not. Look, it's not that easy to track that. I know that's how you do it.
You were literally saying
you can make up a word and make that a child's name, and you would refer to them by that name. Why is it different for a pronoun?
Well, it's different because it's different. Because
No, it's just as
you were
important.
just asked.
It's different because it's a pronoun for a lot of reasons.
So you
one of the reasons it's different is that pronouns turn out to be very difficult to change. They're closed linguistic.
Which is why we're using they them pronouns, which has historical continuity.
Yeah,
it is in the English language. It's in the Oxford English Dictionary.
It's nothing new.
As an educator, okay, hold on. Sorry, yeah.
You were asked, would you refer to me using they them pronouns? You said, no, I wouldn't. When asked why, you said, because I don't think it's a solution. When I brought up then it was basic respect and so on, what you said was, oh, I wouldn't do it if I was like coerced or whatever you said. Somebody literally just asked, would you do this for me? And you said, no, I would not show you that respect. I would not extend that amount of dignity to you.
That's not what I said.
Yes, you said
You said that you would not use they them pronouns for a person.
Nobody
Yes, I did
asked.
say that.
Nobody asked anything about if I came like
basic
with a club and asked you to like use certain pronouns
makes
to
you
refer
think-
to me.
what makes
But
you-
I just asked, would you refer to me if it wasn't for this law? And I asked you to refer to me with they them pronouns. Would you? And your answer was no.
Not
So
if I was
you're
compelled to.
No, that's
But
not
we're
what
saying
you
if you
said.
weren't.
You said no, and then when I started asking you about, you said it wasn't a solution. When you were asked, what is it not a solution to? You said something vague. We said it's about basic respect, and then you said not if I was compelled to. So no, when you were just asked, as a matter of respect, in fact, would you refer to a trans person who asked you to use they them pronouns, a pronoun which has a several
Not if I was
hundred-year
compelled to.
historical?
But
background?
that's not what we're talking about.
Yes, it is because it's
We just
legislation.
we're saying if it wasn't legislation.
It's not legislation.
Never
I've got to
mind
stop,
the
guys.
legislation.
Look,
mind
there's
the
too many of you.
Okay, one simple
I've had
question.
enough. Sorry, I
Dr.
can't do this
Peterson,
anymore.
one simple question.
No, I'm done.
I thought we were statistically irrelevant.
If it was
Well, yeah,
not
I mean,
for
like,
the law,
I don't
and a
exist.
trans person asked you, would you please refer to me by they and them pronouns? Would you refer to them by those pronouns?
Might depend on how they asked.
So no.
Why do you have
Literally
the authority
said,
to determine
please
whether or
refer
not
to me
they're
by
Why
those
do I
pronouns.
have the authority to
have the
determine what I say?
Why do
What
you have,
kind of question
Why do
is
you have
that?
the authority? Let me finish. Why do you have the authority to determine whether or not an individual is worthy of you using their pronouns? Like, if I asked you, would you please use they them pronouns for me? What?
It would depend on what I
What
thought of your
hoops
motivation.
do you want us to jump through?
Those are
What
my
do you-
pronouns. Those are my
There's no
pronouns.
motivation.
No, I know. No one ever has any motivation.
We're
are
trying
my
to
pronouns and I want
survive.
to be-
Politics are a product of our lives and us trying to live in this world. We're not trying to live in
that's
this world
partial.
as a product of our
you want me to
politics.
send you
I was
flowers?
apolitical before I came out as trans. I got into politics because I needed to survive, to advocate against people like you, no offense. I have one quick question. Okay, so they them pronouns are written into the Oxford English Dictionary, the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. It's actually the word of the year this year, and it does have historical continuity all the way back to Shakespeare. It is objectively an English word, singular they pronouns, grammatically correct. Do you think that you can choose to not respect something that is in the English language as a professor, as an academic,
think that I
that
can
you are
choose
going
to
to
do that?
that you are
Absolutely. I
that-
am choosing
But
to do that.
you're ignoring rules of the English language to go out of your way to disrespect students.
That's your opinion, and I'm not going
It
to
is my
try to
opinion.
disrespect students.
We're saying it's disrespectful
Anyway,
to
I'm
us.
sorry.
You don't get to decide what's disrespectful to us.